Right now on Upfront.
Back to Wisconsin.
And we're going to do it again in 2024.
Vice President Kamala Harris hitting the key swing states this week alongside her new VP pick. High drama, the speculation intensifying. One of the top contenders already here. If she asked you and said, Mr. Secretary, will you be my vice president? Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg one-on-one with us. Contentious fallout.
What we saw there was an abomination.
It's time. It's MAGA time.
Jaron reporting from the NABJ conference in Chicago. A fiery back and forth with former President Donald Trump. Then demanding answers.
Federal officials just gave us the big middle finger.
Intensifying congressional investigations into the assassination attempt targeting Trump.
I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured.
Republican Senator Ron Johnson with us from Washington. His investigation, the bipartisan calls to hold the Secret Service accountable. And power struggle.
The consequences of this power grab are even worse.
The two constitutional amendments on the primary ballot. Early voting this weekend underway. The standoff between the governor and legislature now in the hands of Wisconsin voters.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. A lot to get to now, just 3 months out from Election Day. Vice President Kamala Harris back in Wisconsin this week, expected in Eau Claire Wednesday. A decision on her VP pick expected in just hours. This as Democratic delegates this weekend voting virtually to officially nominate her as their party's presidential nominee 2 weeks out from the convention in Chicago. One of the contenders, the potential pick's Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg in the key swing state of Wisconsin this past week, riding the Amtrak with Governor Tony Evers, touring several ports in Milwaukee, Manitowoc, and the Menominee Harbor. We'll acknowledge off the top you are here in your official capacity in Wisconsin, in your official capacity. We'll get to some news of the day as well, but I want to talk about your trip here to Wisconsin, spending several days in this key swing state. You're touring several ports, riding the Amtrak with Governor Tony Evers. Is this a sales pitch, so to speak, for your time in transportation now 3 months ahead of the election?
Well, you know, a big part of my job is to get out from Washington, D.C. and see the places where these dollars from the Biden-Harris infrastructure package are making a difference. And so we've been visiting facilities of all kinds. Just within the port side of the bill alone, for example, a few days ago I was in Long Beach in California looking at the improvements we're making to the container ports there. That's great. But just as important are these Great Lakes ports that serve the agriculture and manufacturing economy here. And that's what's had me in the Upper Peninsula and then places like Manitowoc and today in Milwaukee.
Some of your critics, Republicans here in the state, have called this trip a taxpayer-funded audition to be vice president.
You know, this trip was planned a long time ago. I've been to almost every state in the union, and just about every week I'm on the road because there are parts of my job you can't do from behind a desk.
Listen, Republicans will say you're out here, you're doing these tours, but you have failed to adequately address some of the major transportation issues during the Biden administration. I'm curious from your perspective, let's look at the airline industry, for example. Have you been successful in overseeing the FAA when we've seen delays and major chaos sometimes for passengers?
Well, what I would say is that we have overseen the biggest expansion of passenger rights in the history of the Department of Transportation. Last year, we had the lowest rate of cancellations in about a decade. We've been very tough on the airlines because, frankly, that's been necessary. The enforcement patterns and practices that we inherited were not enough to get airlines to step up and do what they need to do.
With President Biden dropping out of the presidential race, some have called on him to resign and not finish out his term and have accused the vice president and members of his cabinet of concealing his mental fitness. What have those conversations been like behind the scenes with you and fellow cabinet members?
The thing about Joe Biden is he's very good at his job. He made a decision, what must have been one of the toughest decisions ever made by a president, to lay aside the nomination and stop campaigning so that he could be 100% focused on his job for the remainder of his term. Anytime I have needed something from him as secretary, anytime I need to go to him as president, as boss, as leader of this administration, he has been there for the Department of Transportation.
You have confidence in his ability to serve as president?
Of course.
When's the last time there's been a full cabinet meeting?
I don't remember the date of the last cabinet meeting. They typically happen a few times a year. I imagine we've probably will have one quite soon.
All the speculation and all the talk is you are under consideration as a vice presidential pick for Vice President Kamala Harris. Do you have any meetings scheduled with Vice President Harris between now and Monday?
You know, I can't get into the campaign side of things, but what I will say is I'm really proud to work with her in this administration. It's been a historically effective administration, delivering the infrastructure package that the last administration promised but couldn't get done, overseeing record job growth, manufacturing comeback, and she's a big part of that.
So that's not a no.
Again, I'm just not going to get into the campaign side.
As secretary, this would have implications. If she asked you and said, Mr. Secretary, will you be my vice president? Would you step down as Secretary of Transportation?
Again, I don't want to get into the hypotheticals there. What I'll say is I love my job, and I'm going to work hard every day that I have this job to make sure we're meeting people's transportation needs.
President Biden now obviously not seeking re-election. So what does your future hold if VP does not work out at the end of this term?
You know, one thing I've learned throughout my career is the best thing that you can do is focus on the job in front of you, and then let the future start to reveal itself and resolve itself in due course. I've been humbled by being handed a job like this. I mean, we are working on everything from roads and bridges to ports and airports and rail and transit. We're delivering the biggest infrastructure investment since the Eisenhower years. That's enough to take about 110% of my time and talent.
Well, we'll see how this develops over the next couple of days. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Secretary, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Now on to Capitol Hill, Congress continuing to demand answers from the Secret Service and FBI after the assassination attempt targeting former President Donald Trump.
Was coverage asked for and denied ever?
I'll have to research that, Senator.
A joint committee hearing on Capitol Hill this past week included Republican Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. He's in the midst of his own investigation. He joins us now from Washington. Senator, good to see you. Welcome back.
Well, Matt, thanks for having me on.
Let's circle back to this past week, to that hearing coming out of the Secret Service and the FBI. I'm curious what questions still remain unanswered in your mind from the Secret Service.
Almost all of them. Acting Director Rowe was not straightforward. He was not forthright. He didn't answer our questions. But right now, with the new video surfacing taken by one of the individuals that got shot twice of someone, we believe it's Crooks, on the roof of the AGR building, calls into question all the testimony, quite honestly. We do know from local law enforcement, that's basically where we're getting all the information, local law enforcement and the general public. Federal law enforcement, the FBI, the Secret Service, they're just clamming up.
You've worked to establish a timeline, Senator, in your office, conduct your own interviews, as you just mentioned. Who's to blame for this as we sit here today?
We don't know. They know. They know exactly who approved the site plans. Again, there are rumors floating on the internet. They want to clamp down on any conspiracy theory. Well, the way to do that is to give people the information.
In your work on the Senate side of things, do you see this? Is this a bipartisan effort to find answers?
It is right now. And again, I appreciate that. The minute I talked to Senator Blumenthal, who's chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigation, I'm the ranking member of that. That's the subcommittee underneath the full committee. He agreed with me. He's a former prosecutor. He said, we need to do transcribed interviews now. Memories fade. They can be influenced by events. So you need to talk to people now.
Quickly, Senator, looking ahead to November as lawmakers return home for August, a lot of the attention is on Vice President Harris and her VP pick that is forthcoming. I'm curious on the Republican side now, several weeks out, did Trump make the right decision in choosing J.D. Vance?
Well, again, I've known J.D. now. I've served with him for almost 2 years. He's a person of intelligence, integrity. Didn't speak all the time, but when he did, he added to the conversation. So, again, I thought he was an excellent pick, and I think his story itself, from really poverty, raised by a mom who had addiction, and what he's able to do with his life, that's an American success story. We should be celebrating that, not calling it weird.
I was going to say that's a new line the Democrats are using. Do you think Republicans and the Trump campaign were aware of some of these previous comments that have received attention, the childless cat ladies, the idea to give parents more votes? Were Republicans aware of that, and is that an issue?
Well, I think what the issue is the media now is covering up all of Kamala Harris's prior positions. The fact that she never was a drug czar or the border czar. Of course she was.
Trump appeared at the NABJ conference in Chicago this past week, I'm sure, as you saw. I'm curious, your response to him talking about Vice President Harris saying she was Indian all the way, then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Well, Donald Trump actually was invited and he showed up. And I thought the initial questioner was unbelievably rude to him. And so that was a reaction to that, I'm sure.
Do comments like those, though, help Republicans win, especially in Wisconsin and key cities like Milwaukee?
Well, again, what's going to help us is pointing out the disastrous impact of the Biden-Harris administration's policies, the Democrat policies, the open borders, the 40-year high inflation sparked by massive deficit spending, the reason that your dollar now is worth only 86 cents, the war on fossil fuels driving up the cost of energy, the weakness we've displayed around the nation, around the world, which has really set the world in flames. So again, Democrat governance, their agenda, their ideology is destroying this country. That's what we ought to run on.
U.S. Senator Republican, Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, thank you like always for your time.
Have a good day.
Coming up, more on that combative Q&A and now the fallout. Jaron taking us inside the National Association of Black Journalists conference and that appearance by former President Donald Trump. Plus the new union endorsement for Vice President Harris, what it means on the ground in Wisconsin. Next.